This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, I hope that everyone can see my screen at the moment. Let me just quickly go. Okay, perfect. Okay, good afternoon, Francie. Thanks so much for your introduction and for introducing us. I'm Michelle, and Richard's also joining on the other side in Melville at the moment. And we're from Black Khaki, a boutique advertising agency specializing in a variety of different offerings that we can give clients depending on their needs. One of our offerings is digital, and today we will talk a little bit more about looking after your brand and kind of growing your community. We will be sharing a few sessions with you guys on a Monday, and the following sessions will focus more on tactical elements that will help you with the right foundation for starting your content plan and looking at boosting or specific ads that you can, the purpose of specific ads for specific objectives. But today we're just looking at branding and community building. So yeah, as an advertising agency, and I think like most people in South Africa currently, we're already faced with this COVID-19, and it's almost a subject that's gained some fatigue. When someone talks about it, they really just want to almost scroll past your post or your conversation. But a lot of brands have really engaged with the topic, and especially in the beginning, they really looked at what they can do as brands during this period. With saying that, brands also should be very careful with how they approach it, because people are quite sensitive with how the communication that goes around it. So it's really important for brands to show compassion and to really show true brand values that they have as their foundation. Brands also during this period really need to find ways into the customers' homes and on their phones. So that's also why we have this session, is we understand that today's challenges is there, and with the phased approach, you know, we all need to adjust and make plans to be more prominent and be there to our consumers. As an advertising agency, we also had to do quite a lot of changes and challenges, just looking after, you know, our staff and our clients, and looking at different ways to approach things in order to assist wherever possible. Yes, so today we want to, the first slide is just to show that in this section here, you'll see that we kind of like looked at brands that currently really looking after their brand image and looking at their principles as being a brand. On the slide, you will see we have Dove, Volvo, and VW. And the reason why we selected them is just to show you what they've done during this period and how they became relevant. And some of you might have seen it. We just thought it's a nice start to look at. So if we look at Dove, and most of you have probably seen this beautiful ads that they've put out with "Courage is Beautiful." There's also a link in this which you'll see at the bottom. I'm not going to show it at the moment, which you will see that the actual full video of it. I'm sorry, my screen is just scrolling. Yeah, so if we look at Dove, Courage is Beautiful, it's really beautiful how they've shown true people and really our heroes out there that's fighting, and how they connected their brand their brand promise to it. So Dove is all about positive connections and kind of like a relationship with your body and really cultivating that positivity. And what they've done here is really connected and taking a situation that is almost like a very difficult situation that we all are facing and really putting themselves in the consumer's shoes and resonating with that. The next example we have here is Volvo. So you know that Volvo is all about safety, and what they've done here is right now the safest place to be isn't in a Volvo. It's also really considering what their brand promise is, and as a brand, really knowing who they are, and to then yeah, and then to look at what they can offer. Yeah, VW and McDonald's and Audi and Mercedes-Benz have played with their logos in order to show social distancing. A lot of brands are trying to find ways to relate with their consumers during this time. This ad that's here is something that was done by Facebook, and what they've done is, they did this beautiful ad. We're never lost if we can find each other. Facebook's also about finding and creating communities. And what they've done here is a beautiful ad. Again, the link is in this presentation, which we will share with you guys. But what they've done here is they've showcased lots of visuals, and they've had a beautiful poem that someone was reading with music at the background. In order to facilitate this. This wasn't really an ad, it was actually at the end to promote their helpline so that people can actually, contact them if they're not sure what to do. The next version is just to show also through platforms how people have used clever design in order to showcase social distancing, and to really use the space to engage with the consumer. Even in like maybe a shopping center, you could see, with different, with the social distancing of how far you should stand in queues, you can really get quite creative and be a kind of put a positive spin onto this in order to feed your consumers rather with positive messages that will help them during this period. Wolfgat is also a version that we've added here, and what they've done is, this is for the Veskes, and they a very well-known restaurant, and what they've done is delivery of food parcels, but what they've done is they really created a very special pack for people, and within that pack that also had a visual of the beach and the sea to really bring a little bit of their restaurant into your home. So really looking at how they can engage in a more tangible way with their consumer. Okay, then we move to your brand and how you need to relook it. So currently we're not really saying that. We understand that most of you guys that's listening today, you've got your own brands already, and we're just currently facing quite a lot of challenges. And we're not necessarily saying that we need to relook your brand plan or adjust your business strategy for the year completely. But what we are saying is that the reason why these brands could go out there and do this communication and engage with the consumers is because they really knew who they are as a brand. So we thought today is important to just look at the foundations of developing of your brand. And if you've already got this, it's great. Maybe through today, we're also going to try and see like which elements you need to kind of just relook so that you can adjust in the current time. If we look at a brand in our agency, and most agencies or with this really like 3 questions we would ask, is that what do you do as a brand? Why do you do it? and who you do it for. Those three questions generally should cover most of your concerns. If you may be briefing an agency for a specific press ad, or if it is maybe a launch of a new product, or if it is maybe an event, all these three questions should be assisting you throughout your journey. And your brand is really your vehicle in order to communicate to your audience. So what do you do? Okay, when we look at what you do, we kind of like want to start off with the feelings you get when you think of your brand. So what's the feelings that you want other people to feel when they really think about your brand? Feelings, there's quite a lot of feelings obviously that's out there that you feel, but just examples could obviously be, you know, technology or understanding or confidence, empowerment, compassion. Feelings currently that's very current and that brands really should make their customers feel is convenience in a certain way, because obviously our current client base feels that, you know, they don't have access to quite a lot of things that they need, and in which way possible we can create convenience around that. Maybe it is through, you know, connecting with them in a digital sphere, or with deliveries and all of that. Also, it's compassion, and, you know, from a employee side, you know, towards your staff, or just to show compassion, or to your community. Maybe there's ways that you can reach out to assist, and a human-centric approach. I think a lot of consumers are also very open these days, and people are really understanding that delivery isn't that easy. You know, there will be delays. So it's just to also obviously communicate with the consumer to say that you are open for deliveries, but it might be delayed, and keeping your consumer, you know, informed. Touch points, so that's feelings, and the session that we're doing today, we generally go in way more detail when we do these, but we obviously don't have the time today to do that. So we will just go through it very quickly, and you're more than welcome to ask obviously questions. Touch points. Touch point is very important, and you can also look at your customer journey when you consider, say for instance, a digital environment. So, but if you look at touch points is all the places where your consumer can engage with you. And it's a good place where we're at today to just do a little audit about that. Like, look at your touch points. It has changed obviously drastically over the past few weeks, not being able to have a physical store. So there is definitely other touch points that you need to amplify and look at. So some touch points could be your physical store, your receptionist, someone answering the phone, what experience you'll get from your therapist, after sale, maybe ordering products, delivery, communication on email or WhatsApp, a knowledgeable staff. Maybe on your website you have a chatbot that communicates. On Facebook or Instagram, it's very important to show engagement through comments. So if someone gives you comments, to report back. Yeah, and reminders and notifications, and there's quite a lot of others that we can also mention, but those are kind of like the touch points that is out there. And if you look at your touch points now, you don't necessarily just have to look at your touch points, you can also look at your medium. So if you look at social media, and you look, let's use Instagram for an example. Instagram's got so many different options where you can actually engage with your consumer. So with Instagram, you've got obviously just your normal posts, you've got stories, you've got live feeds, you've got your stories that you can save, you've got IGTV. So there's many other within your platform. There's other touch points where you can also communicate to your audience. So it's kind of like to do an audit on what you've got currently and where you currently can engage with your customers, and which platform will work best for you. And when you are considering these platforms, it's also good to consider, again, when you look at your feelings, what you wanted your consumer to feel. So a good exercise, for instance, is to look at your latest post maybe that you've done on Instagram and look at, is it really the feelings that I wanted to bring across? Is it really what I wanted them to feel? Is it really at this current situation informative and helpful? People are always looking for something that will add value to their lives, and that's why they will engage with something. So yeah, those just important exercises, and there's loads of other ones you can still do around that. So that's kind of like moving to why you do it. Why you do it can become quite a lengthy exercise because you have to kind of like narrow it down a little bit. But basically, it's just why you do what you do. And why you do what you do generally comes from finding a unique proposition that you can offer to your consumer that someone else might not be able to offer. And within an industry where you have a service and specific products, you've got maybe a store with a specific location within a community, you have to look at ways of how you can differentiate yourself from someone else. And it could be something very simple and unique than just your store experience. So it's really important to look at what is your unique selling proposition that you're going to sell your customers. And within today, with all the challenges and with everyone almost being silent, within silence, there's sometimes quite a lot of opportunity. And this is the time where the guys that's really going to innovate or really going to try hard to push and learn their customers on a digital platform is really going to find ways to get that unique proposition that they can offer the consumer. So yeah, then you look at really why what you do. If you have to look at yourself as a business, what you do really well. What you really know that is your uniqueness. And if you have to compare it with your competitors, where's the gap then? And then you start looking at your gap. Your value proposition is generally the problems that you're solving from your consumers and your USP. So that's kind of like your value proposition that you offer to your audience. Then we all have brand goals. We need brand goals. We need to have them because we need to know which direction we want to grow in. We all need to relook our goals at the moment. If we have specific long-term goals, we might have to relook them into order to say at this year or this period, we're not going to focus on profits. We're just going to focus on surviving and looking after our staff. It's fair to say that we're all in a very difficult position, and we're not going to look at that or opening new maybe flagship stores. We're just going to focus on keeping the ship afloat. If you look at brand reputation and perception, so that's generally, in a nutshell, when we look at a brand, we also look at a brand as a person. So brand reputation and perception is kind of like the perception someone's got of you as a person almost. And what do you want someone to say about you if you're not in the room? What is your reputation amongst your friends? And that's kind of like what you want, what feeling do you want to leave, and then you position yourself within that sphere. During this period of lockdown, and we'll share it a bit later, social media, specifically looking at Facebook and Instagram, the usage on it has almost increased, like 75% increased just in use of the duration of people being on social media. So yes. Okay, people being on social media. So it's really a great opportunity to be there. People is also more patient on social media at the moment. A lot of brands, and it's out there, is currently engaging with the audience through either questions on Instagram, polls that they're running on Instagram, in order to get insight from the consumer. This is the best time, in a way, especially in a time where you can't really, serve your clients within your physical store, to look at ways where you can gather more information from them. You can also use this as an opportunity to build your databases. So for instance, if you put out a voucher competition and you maybe ask them to share some details with you, that's details that's very valuable for you in the future, that when you are available to serve them as capacity as you can, you do already have a database additional to your current database that you can use. You can also use your polls and questions now to know which products that people are looking at, or what specific would they rather have a voucher, or what's the needs that they have currently. So it's a great opportunity to do that. I'm not going to look too much about brand values. Well, brand values is obviously important now, but we all, as brands, we've got our values as brands, and it's just to relook them to see which values do I need to amplify during this period, so that my consumers really get to know me, but they really know that I'm there for them, and that we keep safety, what safety precautions do we have, and to just keep communicating to them. Vision and mission is not necessarily something that will change immediately. We'd rather focus on short-term goals at the moment. With everything being so uncertain and with things changing weekly, have short-term goals for yourselves that you have. For social media, and we will go into that in a maybe as next session, but for social media, it's also very important to have objectives for each communication you put out there. And we generally refer to it as SMART objectives. So it's objectives that is measurable, it's objectives that is realistic. So we would definitely recommend looking at short-term objectives that you can change. Okay, then the next section is who you do it for. So we here we look a little bit at our personas. So personas is something that is very valuable, especially when you start creating groups on Facebook or on Instagram. If you have to look at your say targeted ads or boosting, so it's important within the foundation stage of your brand to really know who you are talking to. And you will generally have a few personas. You won't just have one persona, you'll have different personas. A list of just options to look at is listed on this presentation, but you can really go into much more detail, almost painting an image of your customer. If you have to imagine your customer at a party, like what will they wear, what perfume will they wear, who will be their friends, what's their hobbies. So you can really go into very granular detail if you go into that. That will also help you when you go into your targeting processes, and you also go into other techniques of targeting lookalikes and things like that. So currently on this list here, it's just age, gender, area, income, where they live. Area is quite important because you know more or less obviously which area you service, and which audience will come to your store or will communicate with you. Obviously with digital, there's not really boundaries with regards to where they can get information from or where they can get advice from. So it does change a little bit there. Education, children, where do they get the information from? Who influences them? Their icons, it's a whole list of them, of how you can really start creating your personas and understanding them. Your brand consumer. So again, in this stage where we are now, I think it's really important to look at the challenges that consumers are facing. So if you have to look at, like I was saying earlier, if you look at the touch points and if you look at the customer journey that they follow, it's really important to think at what is their biggest challenges at the moment. And then you look at which of these challenges can I assist with and how am I going to assist them with it. So in a customer journey, you also have various of different stages where someone is in. And with your communication, you always have different goals. So one of your communications might just be brand awareness. One might be to enforce or to educate. One might be just to remind them and then to reinforce. And so there's different stages within your journey, and it's important to see at which stage you can act in what way so that you can assist your audience. Okay, and then challenges and solving of needs. So this is actually something I just saw yesterday, which just to show how brands are, and I know that your customers have got many challenges at the moment, and I'm sure you guys also are really trying to find ways to assist them as best possible with the restrictions that you've got at the moment. But why it's here did they at 44 Stanley? I just saw it yesterday, but I think it's been running for maybe a few days, where they will be doing packs for color rescue kits, which will be available. So what they will do is they will do a consultation call, and I know that Dermalogic, for instance, is doing quite a lot of consultations as well, but they will do a consultation call, and then they will obviously look at your hair, and then they will do your packs for you, and then they will also give you another video to show you how to do it. I think this is obviously something you guys are probably already doing as well, but it's just an example to show like which ways you need to think as a brand and not necessarily wait until the stores are able to be open again necessarily, and finding ways to be proactive before your competitors get that chance. Another collaboration, so I think something that came through a lot, and it's been very popular in the past, but especially now, it's just collaboration and how people through the collaboration are helping. So other examples is how some footwear brands are doing protective gear, and car manufacturers are doing, you know, safety during this period for safety screens. So something just that you could, obviously also they've got an option where you can add to your bill, and then that goes to the community that they serve. So that's also nice to know that when you do a purchase, it's also helping someone along the way or within your community. I'm not going to really talk a lot about competitor analysis, but it's obviously a good option where you have to look at your competitors frequently and what they're doing. Okay, and then we look at brand association and building a community. So Richard will talk a little bit more about community just after this slide, but we do want to encourage you guys to maybe look at what brand associations do you have currently. There's amazing brands that you are currently already have within your product offering, and it would be great to maybe just use those brands to your advantage and leverage off them. You know, just to mention something from Dermalogica, if you just realize the amount of followers that they've got and the relevancy to their brand and what it can do to you, that's a great example. Lots of other brands that you're also stocking has got lots of other following. So it's just good to kind of like associate yourself and to kind of like collaborate with your brands that you have currently and the relationships you do have currently, and then just look at how you can amplify that. Another thing is just to look at influencers, and I'm sure you guys know that everyone is now currently more looking at nano influencers. So nano influencers is if you've got a much smaller following, and you've got a very trusted community almost that's looking after you. So I think it's really, especially in this time, I've seen, especially in your industry as well, a lot of guys that is actually doing it and getting experts in to do either chats or analyze certain problems that customers might have, or someone might do a page takeover. It's generally ideal also to look at someone that's in your community and what your audience is already resonating with. That's also very helpful. Okay. Then we move to, so now we've kind of like looked at all of the more like info that you have to almost sift through. And then we go into your brand tone. And it's something some people, neglect sometimes, because it is really important to have a very strong brand, tone of voice, and identity, especially in social media, which is bombarded with visuals every day. So with brand, tone of voice, and just your visual identity, we really advise people to really focus on that and really find a very good balance for what you want to do on your page. That's just refreshing, and that people can actually resonate with you and connect with you. And they know that that's your brand. So this is just an example of a brand tone can either be serious or funny, or some have a balance. But this is just one of the brands that launched recently, and they've been very good with some of their communications during COVID-19. Especially, they actually have quite a lot of stuff up in London at the moment, and they're really kind of like tongue-in-cheek almost with their advertising, and that really pulls you in, and you actually really want to know more about this brand. If you look at their page and colors, you'll obviously see that they do use specific within their posts. They're quite consistent with what they do, and I think that's quite one of the important things with this is, if you are struggling to get content to your consumer, rather look at quality and not frequency. So rather look at doing a post that is really meaningful and that's beautiful than just posting lots of content. Yes, that will definitely help you. This is just an example of visual identity and just looking at your fonts and your colors and trying to keep it as consistent as possible. But within this, the main purpose of us showing this to you today is just for consistency purposes and for you to stand out and for your consumers to have that emotional connection with you and to really know who you are. Yeah, visual identity again, just in the clothing brand that we love, Hannah, and she's really doing a great job, especially during this time as well. We've been following her, especially with her Q&As on Instagram, showing her team to the audience. In the first period when they couldn't work, they would show their team through videos and kind of like just use the time to introduce their team to the audience so that they really get to know them. We also have Demologica in here, just for the consistency and the balance of using colors and products. And another thing we want to also mention is, like, if you consider your posts, and we will touch on that next week when we do our content plan, it's really important to consider what you post and what time of day you post it, and just to look at, will it really add value at that time of day for someone to see this post. There's also obviously enormous amount of feeds that goes through someone's Instagram account or Facebook, and also just the amount of people on your Facebook page that actually generally see your posts, which is your friends, is really not a lot. So it's really important to make sure that what you put out is with intent and you know why you're doing it. It's got a specific objective. Yeah, this is just also again another slide to show the importance of being on social. It can feel quite daunting, and I know a lot of you are on social media and you're on Instagram and Facebook, but this is really the time to be on those platforms. During this COVID period, people have really looked at social media and obviously television to get either news or entertainment. So it's really a captive audience that's sitting there waiting for you to serve them with relevant content. Yeah, so this is really the time. If you're not going to be there, someone else will. Your consumers are definitely there. So it is definitely the best time for you to really craft your brand, to really know what you want to say, and to really know who you are saying it to. Yes, so this is just to say that we understand that you kind of like have a new storefront at the moment. You're faced with having your storefront as your social media almost platform, and if you've got an online site, it would be your website. So it's really important to look at social media. It's one of the most consistent touch points. There's obviously a variety of different social media platforms out there. And that's also, again, something that we will touch in another session, is to look at these platforms and to really understand what's the benefit of each one, and to really understand within that platform, what's the options that I have when I communicate to my audience, what's the options that works best for specific objectives. Yeah. Okay, now we will move over to Richard.
So it's my bit now. I'm short and sweet this week. I'll be speaking a bit more next week. I think one of the things that might seem daunting when one starts dealing with social media and branding is there's a lot of terms and there's a lot of terminology. The word jargon comes up, and sometimes it's difficult to really make sense of what the difference is between things. I'm looking, for example, if you've been doing some reading on social media, you'll see that they talk about audiences, and then they talk about target markets, and then they talk about communities. So I just want to quickly unpack it and have a look at what is the difference between those things, because there's quite a few important differences when we look at those things. So when we look at target audience, what we're basically referring to is the people that you are trying to sell your product to. And that will be beyond Facebook or any social media platform. That is anybody that is willing and might be interested in what you have to offer, whether it's a product, whether it's a service, a combination. Then if we look at your audience, those are the people that's already on your platforms. They are the people that's on your mailing list. They're the people that's on your Facebook page or that follows you on Instagram. So the difference between the audience is that those are the people you already got them hooked. Target markets, people that you want to get to become an audience. And then we look at company. Was that surprising to someone? Then we look at community, and that's where actually a very fundamental and important difference comes in. Community really is based on the principle of quality over quantity. Now, you would have heard that term before in terms of what Michelle also mentioned. When we post on Facebook, you can put a lot of stuff out there, and all of it will be relevant, might not even be interested to your target audience, but you feel compelled that you need to put something out. We always say rather put something that is useful, that is meaningful to your audience, than putting out 3 things that is just there for you to post something and to look like you're busy. Your community are the people out of these 3 terms, like audience and target market, that is the most passionate about what you do, about the brand. If you look at the slide I put it, the most passionate brand believers are the best word of mouth ambassadors. And now the best way to explain, actually in a sort of very, very tangible, practical way, what the difference is that a target market is somebody that walks past your shop and or your salon and sees something in the window, and they decide to go inside and go buy it. And you might never see them again, unless you give them a good enough reason to come back. Your audience is somebody that comes in regularly, that comes in every now and again, buys something, maybe a gift voucher or so. Your community is that group of people, that group of customers. For example, maybe like a group of friends who always book their sessions at the same time. And they come there because it's a social experience. They're not only there for what you're offering in terms of product or service, but they come there for the whole experience, the atmosphere, the service, and everything like that. So I hope in that way that makes sense when we unpack those concepts, that what the differences are. So, Michelle, can we go back one again? Thanks. So when it comes to building brand communities, it's about building relationships. It's about building friendships, basically. Is that the target audience, you want to hook them somehow so they don't just walk past once in a while and decide to buy something, but become an audience who's there more regularly. And the audience you want to cultivate to become your community, people who come there because they come for the whole experience, and it's an event for them, and it's something that they can partake in and share. Excuse me. So you should view your brand as the enabler that helps people to come together and to experience unique things or pleasurable things through your product or through your service. So if we look at what the implications are in terms of social media, specifically Facebook, is that in 2018, they've changed their algorithm from showing you a lot of interest-based content to showing you more of what your family and your friends are posting. So their whole strategy that they put forward was to say that Facebook was, from the start, was there to connect with your friends and the people closest to you, and they want to return to that, to those values, again, those brand values. But at the same time, what they didn't tell us is that they also want to charge you to put content in front of people who are not your friends if you're a business. In the end of the day, they are a business. This is the way that they make money. So we've come up with the term pay to play. So really what you want, if you want to get information in front of people on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, you've got to put money behind it to get it in front of people's faces. And that, in this case, we're talking about the target audience, and we're talking about even sometimes your own audience. So it's common for a mere 1% of your audience to see your content if you don't put money or some form of funding or boosting behind it. This is where community is more important, because community is your best source of word of mouth, as I said earlier, and that is your best free exposure that you can get. When people talk about your content, your shop, your offering, your product, out of their own, they share it with their friends, that doesn't count as a promotion. So more people will see it. So the better you know your audience and how strong your community is, the more likely it is that your information would be relevant to them in the first point. And secondly, that they will voluntarily share it on your behalf, which means that more people will see it without you have to pay for it. And now I'm ready for the next slide. Thanks. So if we just look at this from 2020, I see the designer didn't put the source in there, but it's the source is Snapseed, which is a social media platform educating aggregator. Is how consumers find new accounts that they like and follow on specifically social media. And as I said, this is from 2020. It was done at the end of 2019, just before the COVID crisis hit. So unfortunately, we don't know what the response has been since, because, but what we can guess is that community values, community communication has become stronger. So when we look at the top two dots, 45% suggestions in my feed, and used through discovery tools. Now, if we look at how things appear on your feed, that's mostly something that your friends or people that you know would have posted. The chances are better that that is going to appear on your feed if it's unpaid for. Next to that, 40% recommendations from family and friends. So those are the two biggest sources. And then if we go to number 30, the one at the bottom right, that 32% is word of mouth. That is what you get from your community. So in terms of leveraging what you can actually get from just the goodwill of how well you know people, how well you give them what is useful to them, what is valuable for them, what they can actually relate to, the better your chances of actually appearing on their timelines in social media without putting money behind it. Obviously, it's not going to be replacing you promoting content, but it is a way. You'd always have to strike a balance between organic content and paid content. And that is pretty much my two slides. Thanks, Michelle. I lie. That's my third slide. Excuse me. So what goes into building social media community? So community is very much like you would build a friendship. I think you should really approach this like a friendship or relationship. It takes time. It takes time to get to know somebody, and it also, over time, relationships develop and they become more complex, and people get to know each other better. With time comes patience. Somebody doesn't become your best friend overnight. In the same way, somebody's not going to become your best brand ambassador because they've had one nice experience. You need to consistently work at building relationships, giving people the content that they want, that they need, that's helpful to them. Authenticity. Don't try to be something that you're not. Speak to people on a human level, and you'll probably hear that a lot going forward. That people are searching for human truths. They're not interested in, they're less and less interested in all the brand promises. They want to know what is really underlying value and how it's going to add meaning to their lives, not just be helpful. So people want to be able to relate to what you have to offer and what you give. And I think one of the most important things is not to try and oversell. Don't lie to people. People are, at this point in time, especially very, very attentive to brands not telling the truth or lying or overpromising and just jumping on the bandwagon as well, putting out messages that's got to do with COVID-19, but they actually don't do anything about it. So also just, if you're not making a difference in the community, don't say that you are, that kind of thing. So people will always remember a lie. Which ties into the next one, which is trust. Be the brand that people can trust when they have a problem, when they're in a crisis, that you are the first one that comes up in top of mind and they want to contact you. Be helpful, even when people don't ask. If you see something on Facebook or you see something on Twitter, somebody asks a question, try and be helpful, even if it's not something that's directly that you offer in terms of that might not sell a product, but you just have some advice. People will remember that. And the last one here, which is most important, and it goes with patience and helpfulness, is to engage. Speak to people on your timelines, ask them questions. When they ask questions, do answer them back. Even if you don't have the right answer, say, sorry, I don't actually know what the answer is to this, but I will see what I can find out. I think at this point in time, these are the most important things that you can do to actually start building a community and just keep on doing those things, even if it feels that sometimes that this is not working fast enough. It's not going to happen overnight. Michelle, I think I'm back to you. Mute.
Sorry. Okay, cool. So I think that's all we have for today. We also have questions. I think if we, with all of the information that we have shared, if we can maybe just leave you with just looking at who you are, what you do, and why you're doing it, and who are you doing it for, in essence. And looking maybe just to do a little bit of an audit this week and look at your current platforms and what you've been posting. Have you actually updated your bio to say that you are not open, or what your processes are for being safe when you will open? Just to keep communicating with your consumer and to really find ways to be helpful, like Richard was also saying now. So that's something that we would want to really suggest and just leave with you. We do have like templates that we can share with anyone that is looking into really digging into their corporate identity, like their brand as a separate. It should actually take time if you've not done it to do it really proper. But we know that most of you have already done that. So this session was more just to relook it a little bit and to see where you can tweak or where you can adjust. The purpose why we wanted to do this is very important when we go into next week's session, which is about content planning, that you really understand what you want to say. It will just be easier if you have to look at your pillars and everything. If you know you are as a brand, then those steps will just automatically become much easier, as well with your target audience when you look at your personas. Yeah, so that's basically that. And then something we want to say is that if anyone is interested, please let us know. We are currently also running to assist small businesses, because we are also a boutique agency and we understand it's tough times. We're also there to assist with better packages at the moment to assist clients that really need help. So you're more than welcome to contact us. And then we also would want to suggest that if any one of you have got upfront questions for next week's session, please feel free to email us in the week so that we can maybe prep that within our session so that we can maybe get to your concerns quicker and we know exactly where more or less we are with the audience that's listening. Cool.
And from our suggestions, I think this is about the 6 different platforms that we've been communicating with clients and with suppliers on. So a little bit of patience while we figure it out. It's our first time on GoToMeeting, so we might have missed some tricks and stuff, but we will figure it out before next week.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions? You can post your questions in the bubble, the question bubble or the chat bubble that you would like Richard or Michelle to answer for you now. And then if something comes up for our future sessions, as I now asked, you can email them and your PC will also be able to supply you with the email addresses.
Even if it's something from today's session that comes to you at some point, I think we can work in, let's say, a few minutes for questions from the session in the next one. Otherwise, if it's related to content planning and scheduling, then we'll know exactly where your needs are if you send us stuff up front. I mean, these topics are so broad that it's very difficult to, well, it's impossible to cover everything in such a short space. So if we know where the needs are, we can focus on those.
Okay, it doesn't look like we have any questions today. Please can I have your contact details? Richard and Michelle, will you just please put your email addresses in the chat box as well? I will also ask all the BCs that they just forward the email addresses to the clients that attended today. I will also send it through to the BCs now so that they can also distribute it. Okay, so there's Richard's and there's Michelle. Okay, so if there is no further questions, then I think we can say goodbye. And I would like to thank Richard and Michelle for today. It was a very informative session, and then we look forward to seeing everybody again next week.
Thanks, everyone. It was fun being with you.
Okay. Have a great afternoon.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.